I'm at the Sassafras campground, little national park campground, about 2 k's off Braidwood Road at Sassafras. I've left the car up there and come down here, and I'm on my way to Braidwood to stay tonight in the pub and ride back through the national park tomorrow. It's a fine, sunny, fairly still day, and it's already starting to warm up, and it's only 7 a.m. This trail, Endrick River Fire Trail, I've hiked on a few times. I've also biked in here with 17 kilos in a backpack on my back, which was pretty sketchy. But today it's about 5 kilos and a camelback on my back, a bit of clothing for tonight and for tomorrow for the return ride. I was out here a few weeks ago and hiked into the area behind me here and spent a night in a gorge in there and then back out a different way. I really love this area. It's very quiet. There are no cars parked at the car park today and no one camped here. So looks like it's going to be a bit of a quiet one out on the trail. This trail has become popular with people that are doing bike packing, and they link into other areas in the Southern Tablelands from here or come back through this way on their way through to Nowra. I expect to be on this trail through the national park pretty well on my own for the next hour and a half or so. I'm going to go into Nerriga and I'm going to line up for a coffee at the pub at 9 o'clock and fill up with water and then head out towards Braidwood and then cut out on the gravel road called Charlie's Forest Road and follow that along past Curruckbilly and Mount Buttawong and through Mongarlowe and then cut across westerly from there over to Braidwood. If it gets too hot, I've got a river at Mongarlowe that I might be able to dunk myself in and cool off for a little bit. But so far it's pretty good. So I'll get on the trail and catch up with you later. 10 k's in on the Endrick River Fire Trail, I'm at a place called Newhaven Gap. It's a narrow strip of land up on the plateau here that divides the upper Clyde River Valley, which is over in this direction. A lot of big cliffs down there. It'd be very difficult to be able to hike down into the bottom of that valley from this area. And behind me there in that area is where the Folly Point hiking trail, for want of a better word, it's difficult to follow, but goes out to a spectacular point called Folly Point. I've camped out there and had a look off the end of that, and you can see right through all the southern Buttawangs. It's quite spectacular. And this area over here, that's the upper Endrick River catchment. So the Endrick River winds down through that valley, and basically we're going to catch up with the Endrick River a little bit later on, but from here we go through an area down to an area called the Vines, and I'll catch a little bit of video there because it's a rainforest pocket in an area that's really a lot of heathland and woodland, and all this area was totally burned out in the fires back in early 2020. So when I first came up here after that, there was not a bird. You couldn't hear anything. Nothing appeared to survive, but there's a few around now, especially down in the gullies, but things are still pretty quiet up here with the bird life. So 10 k's in, we're heading off in that direction and heading through the Vines, down along the Endrick River and into Nerriga for a coffee. See you then. Okay, we're 15 k's in and come through from Newhaven Gap down through a place called Tandera Camp and Camping Rock Creek. Through that section, National Parks come up with this brilliant idea that they'd improve the road surface by putting fist-size rocks through long sections where water used to sit, and it used to get a bit boggy, even though it's a sandy track. It's pretty difficult to ride along. I'm lucky today, I've only got about 5 kilos on my back, where I rode through there once with a full hiking backpack on, and that was pretty dangerous coming down through there. So today, much smoother, just took it easy, rolled over the rock sections, and there's a few detours around the outside of it. This is Red Johnny's Cave, a very popular cave with hikers that come through this area, people that are heading into the vines and then out from there into the central Budawangs. Sometimes walk in from the Sassafras camp where I started today. It's about 13 k's to come into here and camp here for a night before they head off into the vines and then down past Hidden Valley and into Styles Creek. I'll pick up a little bit of video when we get to the vines. So this is Red Johnny's Cave, and a lot of hikers like staying at this place. Okay, this is the fantastic little area known as the Vines. The Endrick River Fire Trail cuts in here just straight out of the open forest. The soil here is much more like it is up at Sassafras, richer soil. I think it's got some sort of volcanic origin. A little pocket of rainforest in this area. It's fantastic, it's cool on a hot day, and it's also the stepping off point for hikers that are heading through to Hidden Valley and Styles Creek, Mount Horton. That trail was really overgrown after the fires, but volunteers and National Park staff have gone in there and cleared it through to Mount Horton, and I think they're planning on going further and trying to open up the old original trail through into the middle of the Budawangs, where you could link right through to Long Gully, the castle, and also west across to Wog, which is sort of the direction I'm heading in today. So this is the Vines, a little bit of paradise in the middle of most of this open forest. Pretty soon we'll be down at the Endrick River, which is a pretty cool river. It's got a lot of rapids and pools and just a nice place. See you then. Okay, I'm now at the junction of the Red Ground Track and the Endrick River Fire Trail. I'm heading straight down the Endrick River Fire Trail to the right here, down into the back of some private properties and along a dirt road and into Nerriga for the morning break. But tomorrow I'm going to be coming back on the Red Ground Fire Trail there, which is pretty spectacular up in that country. I'll just take a bit of a walk down here and show you what the river looks like here. It's actually appears to have less flow than what I saw a fair way upstream a couple of weeks ago. That's not because of the lack of rain. We did have a bit of a storm front come through a few days ago. I think the water just gets absorbed into the sand or disappears in some way, but it's a fairly small creek here. So tomorrow I'll be coming down that trail and crossing over here. This is the Red Ground track, and that is what the Endrick River looks like here. It's got a few pools you could cool off in. It's still it's only 8:30 in the morning here. Things aren't too bad. I'm not drinking a real lot. The bike feels really good, so I'm happy with the way things are going. That's the Endrick River. Pretty open forest here. You can see that all the trees have got regrowth on them after the fire. This area was hit really hard by the bushfires in 2020. But it's great seeing all this water flowing down and all the regrowth. So I'm on to further down the Endrick River. I'll give you a look at that, and then from there into Nerriga. So here we are, a totally different Endrick River. Beautiful swimming holes here, the waterfall behind me, fantastic spot. So I forgot to mention at the last one that the junction of Red Ground Track is about 20 k's from Braidwood Road, and we've come down another 5 k's or so down to the river down here. I'll just pan this around so you can have a look at the big pool here. I think the locals might be able to access this spot, come up here and cool off on a summer's day. It's absolutely magic. Waterfall up the back, huge big pool here. Just a really nice spot. I'll see if I can pan in here on the fall. There we go. So this will be around about 25 k's from Braidwood Road down to here. And not long after this I'll be cutting through past some farms and then onto a gravel road and then into Nerriga. And we'll catch up with you there. So this is Hendrick River. 35 k's in and just grabbed a coffee at the Nerriga pub. Hanging around the shady side of the pub because the temperature's starting to come up, and also the wind's picking up from the northwest, which was the way it was expected to come up today, and the temperatures are rising pretty quickly. Nice little spot here. This town got hammered by the fires in 2019, 2020. There's a little memorial here in a park. A lot of local people sheltered in this pub, and luckily the pub survived. Unlike a lot of houses around this area, it was devastated. So 35 k's in, Nerriga pub, and now I'm heading south. I'll be on bitumen for a few kilometres and hopefully get through that unscathed, and then turning off left past Wog Campground and on the Charlie's Forest Road through to Mongarlowe. 57 k's in and I've stopped at Wog Campground, a national park campground along the western side of Morton National Park and the Budawangs. Camped here with Kate and we've hiked in a couple of long hikes in towards the Nerriga River. From here you can actually hike in that direction right across into the central part of the Budawangs. You can get down into the southern part, right through the long gully. You can also link with a bit of bush bashing across to the north side and end up where I started this morning at Sassafras. This is a typical sort of southern tablelands woodland area, and it's quite nice hiking, and when you get in there a bit it's full-on wilderness, just with one main trail in and one linking off to the river. But once you get in there about 10 k's you start getting views of Pigeon House Mountain and across towards the castle and that area. It's a good place to hike, and you can camp down in caves down there in the creeks and do a 2-day or 3-day trip or go right through. So this is Wog Campground. I think we're at about 600 metres above sea level. We started at 800 this morning, dropped down to Nerriga, and it's pretty well the same here. And it's a good gravel road, Charlie's Forest Road. There's hardly any cars on it. It's a little bit corrugated, but a nice way to get through to Braidwood on a back road on a mountain bike. See you later. This is Charlie's Forest, along the Charlie's Forest Road. Up there behind the properties here is the Budawang Range, and right at the end of the Budawang Range there is Currickbilly. I think off the top of my head it's about just over 1100 metres tall, one of the higher peaks in the Budawangs. I think it might be the second highest. And as we pan down south, the one that's sticking up right down the end down there is the highest, Mount Budawang, which I think is about 1300 metres tall. So we're skirting along the edge of the farmland here on Charlie's Forest Road. Good views of the range there, and before too long we'll be dropping down into the Mongarlowe River Valley, Mongarlowe, and then hook off to the right and head towards Braidwood. I'm thinking about jumping in the river there if it looks good. It's getting hot and my feet are getting really hot. So this is Charlie's Forest. We're on Charlie's Forest Road. It's really quiet, good gravel surface, and pretty soon we'll be in Mongarlowe. I think we're clocked up around about 70 k's so far. Just had a cool off in this little stream here called Fagan's Creek. I don't think I'm very far out of Mongarlowe and I'm coming up towards 80 k's. I was going to stop at the river, but I spotted this one and I thought, yeah, why not? Looked like a good spot and a bit of shade down here under the trees. But the downside of that is that I've probably got to climb up out of this valley. The road's just turned bitumen. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I was expecting it to be bitumen from Mongarlowe to Braidwood, but maybe it's going to be bitumen from here in. But I think I'm pretty close to Mongarlowe anyway. Yeah, it's hot. I'm looking forward to getting into town and having a nice cold shower when I get there. But it's been a good day, good ride. Okay, right on cue. I've turned up in Braidwood at 2 p.m, exactly when I can get into my accommodation. It's really hot. There's a lot of people here. There's a few markets going on in the park. Before I check in, I'm going to go down and see if I can get some flavoured milk from the service station. So I'll take you for a trip down the main street. A few historic buildings here. Here's my digs for the night, that place on my left. Well, it's 6:15 in the morning, the start of day 2 of my ride from Sassafras to Braidwood and back. Luckily they had a bakery that opens at 5:30 in the morning, so I was lined up at the front door, first customer, and my wonderful breakfast consisted of a quiche, caramel slice, and a large long black coffee. I actually feel a little bit better than I thought I was going to. When I got up this morning and even sitting in the cafe, I was feeling a bit crook and worn out. But I'm on the bike and not feeling too bad. I'm going to stop at Mongarlowe River Bridge and take a bit of film there because I didn't do that yesterday. I'm now just on the outskirts of Braidwood and heading along the Little River Road back towards Mongarlowe. Sun's just come up. I'll have to watch out, cars coming behind me. But 95 k's yesterday, and we're looking at something similar today. We'll see how it goes. Okay. This is the bridge over the Mongarlowe River at Mongarlowe. Came through here yesterday when it was probably at its hottest, about 33 degrees or something like that. I already cooled off in a creek just down the road, but a few k's later I came to this and saw people swimming down here and thought, well, that was the place. But anyway, I still cooled off. Nice rickety old timber bridge here. like that. It's in pretty poor condition, but it really suits the area. It's a very little township here. I don't know how many people live here, not many houses. So there's looking upstream in the river. Really nice forest here. The township just up there. There is a road off to the right, which I think has some houses in it. And a bit of a picnic area over here. I think people may free camp down here. And there's a bit of a causeway across the river, which is probably the old original road. And it's created a swimming hole here, good spot to cool off. That's where I saw the people yesterday. So yeah, Mongarlowe River. We're about 13.5 k's back from Braidwood, and we'll climb out of this valley and back through Charlie's Forest and back towards Wog Wog and eventually onto the Braidwood Road and into Nerriga. 22 k's on the way back from Braidwood, back towards Nerriga. This area is Charlie's Forest, on Charlie's Forest Road. A lot of these people around here are sort of semi-cleared their land. They're running beef cattle around here. Back towards Braidwood you run into granite country and there's sheep and beef cattle. But out here, pretty well all beef. Or some people have left the forest, which is great. But they were all endangered by the fires a few years back. And this area came out unscathed. So all the trees are as they were. This is Charlie's Forest Road, heading back towards Wog Wog. 22 k's from Braidwood. All up, it's going to be about 60 back to Nerriga from Braidwood. Okay, 34 k's back in from Braidwood. We've just climbed up to a ridge line that's around about 700 metres above sea level. There's a similar one back between Mongarlowe and Braidwood. These things sort of divide the different valleys. So I think this marks the point that I'm coming out of Charlie's Forest and I'm heading down into Wog Wog and pretty soon going past the National Park campground I was at yesterday. Just stopping here for a quick break. Time 8:30. I left about 6:15 this morning. It's been slow going. Legs are a bit tired and I just want to make sure I get through the day. The temperature's starting to pick up, but it's been quite nice. The early starts definitely helped. And just got to keep drinking and top up at Nerriga. See you then. 66.5 k's in on the way back from Braidwood. I've already been into Nerriga, grabbed a coffee, had something to eat and a little bit of a break, and then headed out towards where I came out yesterday, but now I've veered off onto what's called the Red Ground Track. And this is the lower crossing of the Hendrick River on the Red Ground Track. So this is downstream from where we were yesterday on day one. And also we'll be crossing this river again where it is much smaller, where I showed you where the Red Ground Trail comes out and meets the Hendrick River Trail. So I was there yesterday. We go through some pretty spectacular country between here and there, so I'll be taking a bit of video and show you what it's like down in the Red Ground. Okay, we're out in the middle of the Red Ground, Morton National Park, up in the northern Buttawings, and this is typical of the scenery along this trail. We've come about halfway along it, come down to a corner that's surrounded by cliffs up in there, and then now heading southwards in the general direction of the other crossing on the Hendrick River. This is a pretty cool place. I've ridden through here once before. I'd really like to come out here and hike for a couple of days and explore up into some of those cliffs. I was wondering today whether it might have been called the red ground because of the flowering bottle brush. There's so many back along the trail there, it's amazing. This is the red ground, Morton National Park. I think we've gone about 70 k's and heading towards the upper crossing of the Nerriga River and then back on the Nerriga River Fire Trail and through the Vines and Newhaven Gap. 75 k's in on the way back from Braidwood to Sassafras, so we've probably got about 20 to go and we're at the upper crossing of the Nerriga River. So the red ground track is complete. We're back at the junction with the Nerriga River Fire Trail, and the crossing's just up there behind me, and downstream down here is quite a nice pool where I'm just about to cool off because it's getting pretty hot again here. And this is a really nice spot and my last chance to cool off in a river. From here you climb up a hill, drop through the vines and then go through all that stony fire trail stuff leading up through Tendera Camp to Newhaven Gap and then across the plateau and back to Sassafras. So last place to cool off, I'm looking forward to it. And then back towards the car. Well, there it is, done and dusted. Another 95 k's today, so pretty well identical both days, even though I went through a totally different way in the northwestern part of the national park today. So all up, 190 k's in 2 days and about 2,500 metres of elevation gain. So solid riding. Back at Braidwood Road here at Sassafras, you might be able to hear the cars behind me. They're all on their way back and forward from Canberra Sunday afternoon. So I've arrived here at 2:30, left early this morning, went slower, definitely looking after the legs and making sure I didn't cramp, and stopped at the Nerriga River for about 45 minutes on the way back. So that made me a little bit later getting back here. It's hot again. It looks like some storms are brewing, and I'm thinking about dropping off at one of the creeks on the way back along the road and just cooling off a bit before the drive back home. But pretty happy I got this one done. I've been thinking about it for a few years now, so finally did it. Yo.